What's up, soldiers of Azeroth? Just wanted to make an apology video. Alright, I was really down on WoW Classic. I was a vanilla raider back in the max 40 days. We killed 4 bosses in max 40. Before that, basically just totally destroyed our guild. And I thought, I already played this game and moved on. But about a month before it came out, I started watching some streamer preview videos, and the tide started to change. I think it didn't really strike me how bad retail really was, with Mechagon and Magitar being just ridiculous, tedious messes. So I decided I'd take some time off and give Classic a chance. So that's what I did. So launch was rough. You guys all remember it. We bounced around the servers a bit trying to find a good place to land. Briefly was on Rattlegore, which is a mistake because it was a Pacific time server, and I got to 30 as a rogue pretty easily. It was also a PvP server. I was amazed that basically I remembered just about everything. I did Lore Master in Lich King, so all the quests are familiar. Nothing was different. Nothing was out of the ordinary. But our 15-person group on Rattlegore quickly disintegrated. People were going to Alliance. People were going to other servers. And I asked around with some other friends and ended up on Mankrik PvE, with the people I played with in the Lich King expansion. So the end result was I was having way more fun than retail. And now that Phase 2 was out, I thank God every day I'm not on a PvP server, especially as a minority faction. Oh my lord. I mean, I kind of figured that would happen. I didn't think it would be that bad. But I remember leveling as PvP pretty much by myself as a priest, so I can't imagine it. It has to be just hell. So anyway, on Mankrik I started my hunter, and I started playing, and it all started coming back. I got to 60 in 9 play days, and we just started raiding last week. So it's pretty much what I look forward to every day, playing with my wife and my guild. So these are some things I thought would suck about Classic, and I will explain why I was wrong. So, number 1, pace of play. Classes are kind of slow and clunky, but not as bad as I thought. So, it's not as hard as I remember. I mean, I leveled really easily. I've also been leveling a priest all with my wife. Again, super easy. Even as I'm even spec holy, and I'm able to level. No problem at all. And the thing that I didn't remember was the depth of the classes is so much richer. So let's take hunters, for example. I often tell people, well, not often, but I tell people that just a hunter managing his pet mechanic is more complicated than the entire retail hunter class, period. And that's just one aspect of it. And I mean, it's just, you gotta buy arrows. I mean, that kind of sucks because you got limited bag space, but it's more realistic than just having a never-ending arrow quiver. So my hunter, his rotation it's nothing special. I mean, it's basically just 3 or 4 buttons, and there's rotation is basically just 2 buttons unless you're doing some other things like trinking. And there were other things I had to remember, like the range dead zone on the hunter, and line of sight ramps are really glitchy. Isn't really a thing in retail. And at first I'm like, oh, I gotta run to Shadowfang Keep. It's gonna take me 15 minutes, but then you start to realize that you're playing a game that you can't just bullshit teleport your way around everywhere. I mean, you have to plan what you're gonna do. I mean, it's an inconvenience, but it is what it is. I mean, that all MMOs were basically like that. And I mean, flight paths were actually a pretty big upgrade that no one, I don't believe, well, some other MMOs had similar fast pathing mechanisms, but I mean, the birds are good, and since it is 112 or 113, all the flight paths are connected. They weren't the original release anyway. So gearing and repetitive dungeon grinding, I thought people would just get on people's nerves. So it doesn't matter. I mean, when you're having fun with others, it really doesn't matter what you do. It's not like these dungeons are hard for the most part. They're pretty much a joke. We're blowing through UVRS in about an hour. Dire Maul, a little challenging still. We're a little under-geared, but it's not going to take us long to gear people up through Molten Core. And then on our server, there's loads of pug runs, so no one really should feel left out unless they're a jackass. With no armory, there's no armory out there, and you're pretty much almost given a chance, unless you're a known jackass, to prove yourself instead of just being judged by some gear score or some other arbitrary triviality. So we're going to farm Molten Core a lot. People will get geared up, and then once BWL comes out, a raid like Molten Core doesn't become like a useless tier. There's still a reason and incentive to do it. And then, but once AQ and ZG come out, we'll see how that transition gets handled. Normally, that AQ 40 transition, because the AQ 40 gear was not really that stupendous from what I can remember. We'll see how much that gets done. And again, usually full tier 2 is usually good enough to do max, but we have a large, pretty active guild with almost 50 max levels. They, for the most part, show up to our raids, and we're going to start subbing in and out for stuff. So, it's just we're going to start getting people the gear that they need. So the one thing I was right about is community. The WoW Classic communities on my server they're very active. You see the same people. You run with similar people. It's not this just one-time single-serving WoW player, single-serving tank, or single-serving healer, and then this person goes away and you never see them or hear from them ever again, and you don't even talk. Here you're like, hey, how's it going, And also, if you're an asshole, you will probably be mocked and shunned. There was some idiot that was proud of himself for ninjaing a Vishgag and pretty much got shamed off the server. I'm sure he transferred someplace else and is just as big an asshole there, but that's not our problem. So yeah, so you also know who the elitist guilds are, and sometimes when you run with them, you're like, why do you think you guys are so good? And that's just a very vanilla WoW feeling. And the cookie cutter specs, they're a thing. There's really two ways to max as a hunter. Really one, but you can get by with Beast Mastery, I guess. And there are people that are trying and failing at the non-viable specs. In this group here, we have a Retnub he's a great guy, don't get me wrong, super nice. And he basically just says, my DPS kind of sucks, but I'll heal, I'll off-tank, I'll buff, I'll dispel, I'll do whatever you gotta do. Just, we're not gonna exclude him. And the one thing that I still have yet to see, though, and I'm not sold on 100%, is the staying power. There's already been kind of waves of people that have dropped out for one reason or another. Some people, they'll get to level 20 and they'll just log off one day and then kind of take a couple days off and then just never really come back. There's people that are bounced into Classic for a solid 3 weeks and then decided that something cool came out in retail, they were going to try that, and they still stayed in retail, but I'm not going to be one of those people for now. So we'll see. I've also seen people that get to around level 53 to 55 and they don't really know what to do, which kind of always perplexed me, because there should always be something for you to do. I could have leveled 100% through quests, but I got drugged to UBRS from 58 on to 60 because my guild really enjoys watching me die kiting drag. So I got drugged there, and my DPS was terrible, but with 10 people you can carry somebody. And then once the phases get out, again, AQ40 I wasn't a fan of, but we'll see how it goes this time. Since we have more nature resist, we know a lot more about nature resist gear now, it should be a little easier to fight. Fights like Huron. And since we do know a little bit more, certain fights like Oru may actually be done once in a while. Nobody did Oru as far as I remember back in the day. That was Oru the freezing one? Little slime where you had to use frost spells. But anyway, whatever that one was, nobody did that one. And I think the gear that it dropped was crap anyway. So the one thing also I have concerns about is Naxxramas. So I'm sure there are tons of private server people that have done the shit out of Naxxramas, but when we did it the first time, it was just soul crushing. Because the trash respawns so damn fast. You had to farm all week to get consumables to just burn up. You probably burn through 1,000 gold of consumables every week if you were getting places. And some of the fights, like the Vesuvius fight as a priest, as a mind controlling priest, is just super stressful. Fun as hell, I might add, but super stressful. So we'll see about that. So anyway, it's been 10 minutes of me ranting, but keep fighting on at Azeroth, soldiers. Thanks.